Okay, Sydney, what the Felicious, which is, I assume, a portmanteau between delicious and fuck. Uh, this Felicious. Why would you assume that someone who's working in a country that is poorer than your own, from what I understand, you live in Canada, you assume that because this person is working in a factory that obviously they're in terrible, awful working conditions, and compared to probably where you work, you're right. However, I think it would be important to point out where they came from before they worked at the factory. My guess is that if you don't work in an industrial sector, you work in an agricultural sector. If it's a really poor agricultural sector, then maybe you don't make enough wages to feed your family of 4 or 5 kids, as you point out. So that is why they go to the factory to make a bigger wage in order to feed their family and provide for it, provide an education, give them an opportunity that they didn't have themselves. Now, you also say that because all these evil companies and corporations and brands that you so knowingly buy from, that's a bad thing. Well, how can you say that and then go out and buy these brands, Pink, Abercrombie and Fitch, Bench, when just to make a point, you are actually once again contributing to the situation that you're complaining about. More importantly, on the terms of Karl Marx's idea of alienation, which you say, you make the case of a product itself, I want to know, could you make a T-shirt, a cotton T-shirt? Now, your immediate answer would be, yes, I can. I just need the materials. Well, in order to buy those materials, or sorry, not buy, acquire those materials, you'd have to go to a store. But that store has bought actually materials from another company that is then selling it to the store, which is selling it to you so that you can make whatever brand or no brand that you want. So let's look at even a harsher case or more basic case. Can you make a cotton t-shirt from scratch? This involves, first off, planting cotton seed in land and growing it. Now, under Karl Marx, you don't have any private property. It's actually owned by the state, so the state will tell you what you're going to grow. But assume that you have some private property. You have to find out how to grow cottonseed. Now, everyone assumes that, well, a plant, all it needs is, soil and water and some heat. Well, that's fine, but you only have finite growing seasons, especially if you live in Canada, where it's cold for about, let's see, 4 or 6 months out of the year. So you'd have to grow the cotton, then you would have to manufacture that cotton through a loom, which would require more materials, raw materials, either wood or metal. If it's wood, you'd have to cut down a bunch of trees in order to build a loom. Maybe just one tree, but if you want multiple looms so you can make multiple products, then you'd have to cut down a lot of trees. The alternative would be to mine ore out of the ground in order to make your loom. So you would need to be able to mine ore. First, you have to find a mine, then you have to mine it, then you have to smelt the ore, then you have to cast the ore into tubes to make your loom, or even if you're going to make a sewing needle or even a machine, you have to cast that out of the metal ore that you mine or that you acquire from somewhere else. I want to say the point that I'm trying to make is that notice how all of these people with special skills, the farmer that grows the cotton, the miner that mines the ore, and the person that works in the factory, even the person that works on the sewing machines that are then used to assemble the fabric made in the factory, they all are working in their own self-interest. And at the same time, they're benefiting everyone else. They are working in their own self-interest to make money. A farmer grows cotton because that's what the market's asking for. Now, when he grows cotton and sells it, he makes a profit. That profit is then benefiting to him, but it's benefiting to someone else because he sold something of value. He sold cotton that can then be used to make shirts after it's processed, which is then sold by that company in their self-interest. And it actually benefits not only the company, but the workers of that company because they get paid wages. And it benefits you as well because guess what? You get to wear a piece of clothing when it's cold outside. So I want to also address the problem that you have with identity. Yes, it is weird that from a person who in the video had 2 brands of bottles on top of her TV, a Fuse bottle and what looks like an Ethos water bottle, that she would come out and say that these brands, help lose my identity, and that's the identity thing is a personal question that I think only you can answer and that person can answer. It's not made by a company. If you are letting a company make your identity, I think that's a personal problem. That's no problem with the company. But going back to what you are buying specifically, you agree with, I suppose, what Fuse or Ethos does, and that's why you buy their product. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's your choice. You can choose to buy whichever brand you want. I think it's just weird that you criticize brands and yet you have those brands sitting on top of your TV during your video. Let me show you some other brands. You have a Quarter, made by the U.S. government. Here's a Top Flight notepad. Lots of paper in it. In fact, let's see here. Oh yeah, helps me do my homework, so I can get a grade and good education. Bic Velocity Mechanical Pencil. This is a real evil brand. In fact, it's so evil it helps me do my work and help write down my ideas. Papermate pencil leads. These are evil as well. They go in the mechanical pencil, which allows me to do my homework and get an education and also write down my ideas so that I can argue with you on YouTube. This is a good one for environmentalists. Duracell batteries. This company, they make batteries that don't use electricity out of the wall. They save the environment. One of the worst companies, I assume, they have their brand on this piece of napkin. Let's see if you know Subway. Yeah, Subway is really bad. In fact, they're one of the healthiest fast food chains in probably the world, definitely in the United States. M&M. M&M's a really bad company. In fact, they sell people something they want, chocolate, at a very reasonable price. It's 50 cents for a pack of them. At least here in the US it is. I don't know what it is in Canada. In conclusion, I can only guess that you assume that people overseas are oppressed by the free market, when in fact, if the free market was left to its own volition without government intervention, obviously you wouldn't have all these problems that you have with sweatshop labor and stuff like that. In fact, you still cannot show me an example where this is bad. Communist countries are the ones that oppress people, not the free market. But my point being is that you criticize the free market when actually it's giving people who don't have another chance upward mobility and actually able to provide for their families. I'll leave you with a quote by Milton Friedman, who is a free market economist. I'm sure you don't agree with him. But most arguments against the free market is a lack of belief in freedom itself. With that, I'll sign off and tell you goodbye.